Hi guys, welcome back to another stream. I've got 4 hands to go through today. I've run them all in Pio already, so let's just go straight in. If you guys have any questions at all throughout, just let me know. I guess we should go back to the start of the hand. Here we are 108 big blinds deep. The cutoff goes for a min raise, which is pretty interesting straight off the bat. Hello to ShadowBV09 on Twitch. I think he should be going 2.5x at this stack depth. We talked a little bit about this, I think, in the last stream. I talked about why we go 2.5 at 100 bigs. You know, the bigger you make it pre-flop, the bigger you get to go on the flop, the bigger you get to go on the turn, and then the bigger you get to go on the river as well. So, going for a min raise here. Spoiler, I just 3-bet. But if we just called here, the pot's 5.85. It's pretty tough without going for a massive overbet on the turn to get all in by the river. You'd have to just go like pretty big on the flop and then overbet turn, overbet jam, river to get all in. So, I mean, the same thing's going to happen if at 2.5, but I think you just don't need to go quite as big. So here we go. So I think we mix this hand. I think this is a pretty good 3-bet candidate. I go 4.5. You could go a little bit bigger. So certainly if he made it 2.5, I would stick to going 4.5. So what would that be, like 11.25? Here he's getting, not a great price, but he gets to play the whole hand in position, and we're really deep stacked. So we want to sort of charge him for the privilege of playing this hand in position. So could maybe go a little bit bigger here. Cutoff calls, and the flop comes 8-7-5. So I thought this was a good hand to look at, just to see how the solver plays it. I'll show you what I did first, and then we can talk a little bit about it. So I checked flop. I think it's probably going to be a mix on this board. I don't think it's going to be like we just get to bet everything. Think about the kind of hands that he has and how that interacts with this board, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a bit. So I check, and he checks back. We improve to trips on the turn. So the major question I had here for the solver was, do we actually have any overbets here? Because if we wanted to bet equal sizes of the pot now, we would have to go something like 1.2x pot on the turn to be able to jam for 1.2x pot on the river. I'm just estimating this because the SPR is about 5. So if the SPR was 4, we could go pot and then pot river. But if it was, given that it's more than 4, we have to go over pot. The other one to think about when you're thinking about trying to size your bets geometrically or trying to make the bet sizes equal on turns and rivers is if the SPR is 1.5, then you get to bet half pot on the on the turn, and then you can jam for half pot on the river. If you know that the SPR is somewhere between 1.5 and 4, then you know that you got to bet somewhere between half pot and full pot. So it's a nice little rule there to use. Okay. I did go for I guess that's 1.1, something like that. And he folded. So it's not that interesting past this point. But I think it's a good one to look in the solver to see what the flop strategy looks like. Because I think, we're going to play at this stack depth. We want to play aggressively. We want to know what to do in 3-bet pots out of position. And I think this is a somewhat unique spot, given that a lot of our range is going to be like big cards, right? But we are going to have some of these suited connectors as well, and obviously we hit in this spot, so I want to know how to play this situation. Question then from Twitch: was your 3-bet decision mainly based on his min raise and this stack depth? It's really just based on the fact that I want to 3-bet this hand sometimes and flat sometimes. I think there's definitely an argument for just going for a call because it's so cheap to call. Whereas, versus 2.5, it costs an extra half a big blind. You can make a little bit more money when your 3-bet gets through, plus you have, a playable hand post-flop if called. So, I think there's definitely an argument for just going for a flat when it's just a min raise. But as I said before, I want to play aggressively and I want to mix this hand. Okay, so let's have a look in the solver. Let me just remind myself, 7 of hearts on the turn. Okay. Let's find the board then. Would you 3-bet at 30 big blinds? No, absolutely not. I would not. This is just a really good hand to flat at 30 bigs. Okay, so I can't actually see which board we want. Okay, perfect. That was a good guess. Okay, so I've taken the pre-flop solutions, and at 100 big blinds, you can see that there's a decent amount of 3-betting going on with like 9s plus, half of 8s, ace queen off plus, king queen suited, ace jack suited pretty much all the time, and then a mixture of other bluffs, so like jack 9 suited, jack 10 suited, queen 10 suited, king jack suited, king 8 suited. You know, I'm probably not going to be playing exactly like this, like 58% king jack suited, probably not, probably just go like half the time, probably just do this 3/4 of the time, you know, that kind of thing. And you can see 7-6 suited is actually a lot more than I thought it would be. I thought it would be more of a mix, but it seems like 83% 3-bet in this spot. So I think that's pretty interesting. Obviously versus the min raise, the solutions are going to be a bit different. But so these solutions are based on 2.5x. So that's just something worth thinking about. So let's have a look at equities. So our equity, excuse me, our equity out of position, reasonable 53, in position 46. But if we have a look at it, like we have these overpairs, but then we have a lot of nothing type hands, and a lot of those are getting checked here. In position though has sort of a lot more going on, I would say. These hands getting called to like pair and draws and stuff like that, pair plus draw. So if we go to Range Explorer, have a look at 2-pair plus. This is us out of position. 2.4% of our range is 2-pair plus, so it's only 8s and 8-7 suited, and it's only 1.5. I'm sorry, 3.3 combos. We don't have any straights in this spot. But then we switch to the in position player, and theirs is 5.6%. So whilst we have that slight equity advantage, our opponent has 2-pair plus advantage. So you can just look at the board and weather that out, right? You know that they're going to have a lot more of these kind of hands in position. Let's have a look at overpairs. So we have 24.8% of our range versus 11.5. So we've got definite overpair advantage. Top pair, we have 8% versus their 5.8%. And let's have a look. Combo draws. They have quite, extra combo draws in position. Same as flush draws in position, and other draws as well. So yeah, I would say that they have like I'm not sure that you'd ever really talk about it like this, but they have a draw advantage for want of a better phrase in this spot. I've never heard anyone describe it like that, but I guess I have now. So yeah, that's they're just going to have a lot of hands to be able to continue from like pairs through to draws, that kind of thing. So we just don't get to bet all the time, and plus they have, we just don't have that many hands that we really want to stack off with in this spot. So yeah, a decent amount of checking, I would say. 7-6 suited, going for a check mainly, but a little bit of small bet and big bet. No jamming. There's absolutely no jamming here for what would that be, like 5x pot. But yeah, so it looks like checking would be absolutely fine here, and looks like checking is just coming out slightly ahead as well in terms of EV. But it looks, the other thing that's quite interesting here is that there's absolutely no hand that's a pure bet, which is quite difficult to work into a strategy, right? I mean, I guess you just say like whatever you have, just mix it. But that's a very sort of blanket kind of easy way out from this spot. So I think it's quite unique in this situation, but you can see there's just a ton of mixing. Over pairs are getting bet for the bigger size, which is around, let me just see, 2/3 pot-ish. Yeah, so that's good to see. Let's have a look. But yeah, really interesting to see top pairs just mainly going quite passive. 8-6 suited doing some more betting. Let's have a look at the equity here. So you can see 8-6 suited, given that it has a pair plus a draw, then just going to have slightly more equity than all of these other hands as well. So in position can obviously still have some very strong hands in this position and some overpairs and that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is pretty good to see. And then it just gets a lot more passive, I think. Just going for the check. A lot more checking, not really too much in here, not even like, I guess there's a little bit more betting with ace queen of diamonds. Ace king though seems to be pretty consistent, about 60-ish% of the time. More betting with diamonds here, but again, this is not a huge amount of like great patterns that we can be like, okay, yeah, this is definitely how we should approach this spot. Okay, combo draws, mixing, flush draws, mixing, 8 straight draws, mixing, and 4 straight draws, mixing as well. Okay, so we know that basically we just do a lot of mixing in this spot. Shadow on Twitch, would you check raise the flop if he bets, or just flat? I mean, it's a good question. Let's go for a check and see what the solver would do. So the solver's just going to go for a check call. Again, like we can see some raising going on with overpairs and draws and things like that. But yeah, looks like 7-6 is quite happy to just check call and see the turn. Hattie, do you use a randomizer? So yeah, I have an RNG that I'll use on the stream. I don't use it. I just use the clock. So tend to just go odd and even. If I know that something is going to be, you know, a bet sometimes and check sometimes, it's not really like massively scientific, but I'll just go like, okay, I'm going to bet if the clock is even, and then just look at the clock. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do. I don't, you know, having an RNG would be better, but like, you know, really trying to memorize these frequencies, I think is quite tough. And you know, you even saw right at the start, I thought 7-6 suited would be a mix here between calling and raising, about 50-50, right? But it's actually like a lot more 3-betting here pre-flop than I thought. So I think that's really, you know, really good to see. Okay, so yeah, we did check and he checked back. So the question, I don't know if you remember it from the start, was do we actually have any overbetting now? You know, do we have enough hands that we want to go overbet turn and jam river? And the answer is not really. So we have some what looks like 40%, 80%, and then there's 1.2x pot, and then 2x pot, and then a jam. So there's a little bit of overbetting, I guess. But yeah, not a huge amount. And then we're using this this big size 80% quite a lot, and the 40% quite a lot as well. So 7-6 suited does go for a bet sometimes, but also happy to check as well. If we think about why it's doing this, so one of the sort of downsides to using solvers is that they never really tell you why they're doing what they're doing. You got to try and work it out for yourself. So we just have, I mean, if you look at our checking range now, we just have a lot of like, not aces, but ace, king, ace, queen, all of these hands here as well. I guess these are draws, but unpaired hands that, you know, and there's quite a few of them, right? You know, a lot of our range is like ace, king, ace, queen, which you can see is a lot of combos because the offsuit combos are going to be 3 times as many as the suited combos. So there's a lot more combos within the offsuit region here that we just can't do anything with, or we'd end up just, you know, putting too much money in out of position. So what happens is the solver wants to make sure that it's not just, you know, betting its best hands on the turn and then you know, checking everything else, because that's a pretty easy strategy to beat, right? So in position would just have no incentive to continue, you know, would just continue with high equity hands, hands with high implied odds, and then would just fold everything else. So, you know, the solver's not, I guess the solver's not really in the sense that it's kind of emotional and it's, you know, splitting its range in the way that I described. It's really just finding what's the highest EV line for each of the hands within its range. But like, you know, trying to work it out, why it's doing what it's doing, you know, that's part of the, I guess, the fun of studying these spots. So yeah, the key thing for me, I'm going to make some notes. So there's no overbetting on 8, 7, 5, 7. Whoops, we've gone rogue. Yeah, I just clicked end and it moved to one of the other screens. Okay, so yeah, there's no overbetting, but a mix of like big and small. Shout out to GARETH'S for the follow on Twitch. So like 40% and 80%. So yeah, small and medium, and very little overbetting going on in this spot. And I guess, I mean, if we overbet, like they're going to be folding like over 50% of the time, right? Let's have a look. yeah, so folding 52% of the time. Shout out to Sterane for the follow on Twitch. So yeah, so I guess they're just folding a lot of hands here, and I guess by betting smaller, we get them to continue with more hands. We get more value, obviously, when we're value betting. But I guess as well, like just being aware of what our range looks like. It's still fairly wide, and but yeah, I guess we just don't really have enough hands to really want to overbet the turn and jam river, right? In terms of like really strong hands, like trips, I think is perfectly good here. But let's look at trips plus even 4.8% for us, 4% for imposition. So I think that's pretty interesting. I guess his check bet range is going to include some hands that with decent equity though now. So and then we're going to have some interesting rivers to play. Hattie on Twitch, can I see your Pio setup? Have you got 2E or that not make sense? Yeah, so I described this earlier on, but I actually think that here the geometric sizing is like 1.2x pot, and the sim set up to 120% on the turn. So it's not geometric, but it's because that relies on it'll have different sizes based on what we do on each street, right? So I just created it so that it was like 40, 80, 120, 200 on the turn. But it just happens to be that the 1.2x pot will be around the geometric sizing, yeah. But yeah, anyway, like there's very little over betting anyway, so we're not doing that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would say looking at this sim, so when I'm studying this kind of stuff, I would say that there's just quite a lot to take in here, and probably like I need some more time to go through this, and I want to go through 3 more hands. So I think the key things is that we don't just like bet our strong hands on the turn all the time. Make sure that we do some checking. We got a decent number of checks with these overcards. So we just want to make sure that we're not going too crazy here. Okay. Hattie on Twitch. I know the sim says no overbetting. Just wondering if you had it set up. Yeah. So the sizes here, 40, 80, 120, 200. So there is some overbetting. Sighton27, thanks for following on Twitch. So yeah, so this is the overbet sizing here. So the pot's 1985, 19.85 big blinds, and this is the 1.2x pot. So like I said, like it's not set up to do geometric sizing, but that just happens to be the geometric sizing. Okay, cool. Right, let's have a look at some other hands. Okay, yeah, this is a really interesting one because I'm not 100% sure on the flop to begin with, and then turn I think I just go completely crazy. So let's see what happens. So I open 6s. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the low jack. Small blind calls. Flop comes ace queen 5. I don't think this is a pure c bet against the small blind. So I think you probably can check this back. I just went for a small bet. Now, we could talk really quickly about, the sort of the merits, the pros and cons of going for this small bet strategy where your opponent's not going to, take advantage of you. They need to be finding a decent number of bluff raises and things like that. I think that's better probably against the big blind. Think about the small blind's range. It's a reasonable number of hands that are going to have connected with this board. So whilst the small bet can be reasonable, I mean, really, when we bet small, if you think about, what are we trying to achieve here? Well, we're trying to get, two random overcards to just fold. So if he has a hand like 10-9 of diamonds that he's flatted in the small blind, then we can get that hand to fold, right? But, he continues with ace X, with queen X, king jack, king 10, jack 10, pocket fives, flush draws, all of that kind of thing. Sure, we block, hand like 7-6 of spades, or 6-5 is blocked by the board. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on this, so we want to look at this for sure. And don't forget, like these. So the reason why I did these study sessions is because these are spots where I'm not 100% sure, and I want to just check and make see if we're doing it right. Shout out to Somhop for the follow on Twitch, and yeah. So really, they're as much study sessions for you guys as they are for me, right? Because I want to learn some stuff, and I want to see where I'm making mistakes. So Yeah, it's not me playing perfectly. That's for sure. Okay, so he calls. Turns the 8 of clubs. Shout out to the guys who just followed on Twitch. So 8. Okay, so he can have hands like 10-8 of spades, 9-8 of spades. You know, hands like that. 8x of spades, basically. I think that we can put a decent amount of pressure on a hand like a weak ace now. Some sort of suited ace that called the flop. I think that hands like king, queen, queen, jack, queen 10 are now not loving life. I feel like they have to call the flop, but now, you know, a hand like queen 9 of diamonds, for example, I'm not sure it's going to love this this turn card. So I think, yeah, it'd be good to see what's going on here. I actually went for the overbet here, which, yeah, the pot's going to be 31 if he calls, with about 35 behind. So this might be a little bit too big, but yeah, I think we just put an enormous amount of pressure on it, on the weak parts of his range. But even in game, I was like, I'm not 100% sure if this is the right play here, because the thing is, like, we could still be ahead of some hands. Like, I'm not sure if 2s, 3s, and 4s would call a flop, although we saw something similar last week, so who knows. There's maybe some 5x in there. But you know, we've got other hands to go for a value bet. So again, I just want to see if like we do ever find an overbet here. He ends up folding, but I think there's a lot to dissect here, because it's very different playing against a small blind than it is against the big blind. Okay, we'll get to the board eventually. Okay, so let's have a look. Equities. So equities in position 55%, out of positions 45. And I got some questions in here. 1 second. What was the buy-in for this tournament? Let's have a look. This was $55 bounty tournament. So it must be like the hot 55, I imagine, or the hotter 55 if it's from Sunday. Jack, do you think at lower stakes people don't call wide enough in the small blind? It really depends on the player. Like sometimes you'll just see players call like queen 6 suited here, or I don't know, jack 9 off, and it's just, you know, way too wide. Do you think they have a stronger range generally, even stronger than they should be? Yeah. So as I said, like I think it just depends. I think you know, a good player is going to defend appropriately. I think you know, a weaker player is going to defend one of two ways, right? Probably like fold too much or call too much. That kind of thing. Hattie on Twitch, at low stakes, I don't think people fold weak aces here, even though they should. So you think like, do you mean pre-flop, or do you think on the turn? Because I don't think on the turn I'm trying to get an ace to fold. It's like the queen X and the flush draws I'm trying to deny equity to and that kind of thing. But I just wonder if we even need to overbet to get that job done. Okay, let's have a look here. So 2 pairs, let's have a quick look. We're 7.9%, they're 5.3. So they have some ace queen in there, some ace 5 and pocket 5s. Obviously we have the aces, queens, all the ace queen, ace 5 suited and pocket 5s as well. In terms of top pair then, we 23.8%, there's 20.8. So you can see that they just have a huge proportion of their range is ace X. So if you look down the right hand side, I really like this part, this feature in PIOSolver. You can see what their range looks like in terms of different parts of their range, right? So top pair 20.8, second pair 13.2, third pair 15.5, low pair blah blah, king high nothing. All right, so you can see that like a decent chunk of hands are ace X, queen X, and pairs in this spot. And then you've got, you know, not a lot of nothing, 15% nothing, 18% king high. But some of that king high is going to be able to continue. It'll be a flush draw, it'll be a gut shot, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, and then all the draws, obviously, they're just all going to continue. So, yeah, there's probably just not a lot of like nothing that you're trying to fold out with a small bet. So that's what I was trying to get at when I talked about how it's so much different playing against a small blind than against a big blind. So yeah, so you can see that the big bet's the one that's used most frequently. There is a little bit of small betting going on, but mainly just big bet. So we had 6 of spades, 6 of clubs. You just see it here. So yeah, we're betting, what's that, like 10%? of the time for a small bet, 29% for a big bet, and doing quite a lot of checking, I would say, in this spot. So yeah, I think it's kind of like, oh, we see a board that's like great for us, and we just gotta rein it in a little bit. I think let's just do small bet. So you could say to yourself, okay, I don't think this guy's going to raise 16% of hands. Like he's not going to find the raises with the 6-5 and the 5-4. But he's probably going to find the raises with some ace-x similar to this. But he's also just going to play, the queen-x and the gut shots and the flush draws probably exactly the same as the solver would. And then just go for these, passive approach, passive strategy with these ace-x. So it's not like he's not finding like a huge amount of bluff raises in this spot. So I think, sure, we're getting like some hands to fold. Like basically 2 overs without the flush draw. But I don't think that's making up a huge part of his range. I think we already looked at this, right? The nothing type hands that haven't connected is not a huge amount in this spot, and some of that nothing, Jack 10 and then spades are all going to be able to continue. So yeah, I think it's a miss from me. I think it's should be big bet or check, as you can see. So yeah, one mistake. So we'll low jack versus small blind on ace queen 5 flush draw. Let's just look at the overall strategy. There is some small betting, as we said, but it's these like big bet and check, basically big bet and check, some small betting. But like, just understand the why again. I'll just go through it again. So think about what we're actually trying to achieve. We are getting some hands to fold, but there's not a lot of the like nothing kind of auto folds that we would be able to generate if we were playing against the big blind, for example. Just because of the nature of the small blind's range, right? It's going to be a lot of ace-x and like broadways, like gut shots and queen-x, plus flush draws with the suited stuff in here. So sure, you're getting 3/4 of that range to fold, maybe a little bit more because you get hands like king 6, you block king 6 of spades, 7-6 of spades, 6-5 of spades, that kind of thing. But there's still a lot of hands that can continue. Do you think the same board versus big blind, it will be more small betting for our hand? I think it'll... what stack depth are we? I think they're probably... No, I would say that there's probably going to be a lot of big betting. There might be some small betting. I think we get to bet a lot more frequently against the big blind, but I'm not sure that we necessarily have a huge amount of small betting. A good one to run and compare, though. I don't know if you want to do that, Hattie, in Twitch chat. But yeah, we just... against the big blind, we really want to force, we're going to have such a much bigger equity advantage on this kind of board against the big blind than we do against the small blind. Okay, so the turn was the 8 of clubs. And opponent does some leading here, actually, which is quite interesting. Let's have a look. Just a little bit, a touch of leading. Yeah, not a massive amount. Okay, and then we look at our hand, and it's pure check. So yeah, not clearly a bet. We did go for the over bet. So my idea was right in the sense that it gets like some queen-x to fold and some gut shots, obviously 2 overs and a gut shot to fold. We get some better pairs to fold as well. So I don't think it's unreasonable. Like in terms of like logical approach, this is what I'm trying to achieve with the bet. Seems reasonable. So it's interesting to sort of note that the solver's not going for it here. But if you look at 4s and 3s and 2s, they do bluff a reasonable amount of the time. So I guess the key thing here, I mean, certainly this would be true against the big blind, is with 2s, 3s, and 4s, you can get a lot more hands to fold, right? So you're getting queen x plus 5x to fold. Whereas if we have sixes, we still beat some 5x. But let's just go back and see what 5x you could possibly have. 6-5, king 5, ace 5 is obviously 2 pair. There's not a huge amount of 5x, right? But yeah, certainly against, that's what I said, certainly against the big blind, it would be very, very different. Yeah, we're in the low jack against the small blind. Yeah. So sounds like Hattie's going to tell us what the strategy should look like versus the big blind, which is great. Okay, yeah. So if we're not going to find the bluff with sixes, what sort of hands do we get to? Let's go with nothing first. So I guess, yeah, with these hands like need to improve in order to win, whereas sixes, you know, could still beat king 5 and 6-5, even though you block it. 5-4, I guess, as well. So yeah, decent amount of betting with these nothing type hands. This is a draw, right? 4-out straight draw. So the weakest gut shot gets checked. King Jack suited gets checked as well. King 10 suited doing a decent amount of checking, but there's some betting going on here. Really nice to see with like King Jack using the spade blocker. That looks really, really good. So Hattie's reported back, ace queen 7 flush draw, total bet 94%. Cool. Yeah, so there's a mix of small, medium, and large. Yeah, so if we just gave it 2 bets, I think we would see a lot more large betting and some small betting, and not a lot of checking, which is, yeah. And you can see, yeah, so he's written in the chat, in position equity is 66%. So that's that's what I was saying earlier about really pushing that equity advantage. Once, you know, we'd want to push that and bet a lot more frequently. Cool. Okay. So we don't bet sixes, but we bet, you know, some of these other gut shots, some straight draws, mixing. I think I was saying that it uses the spades here as a blocker, so blocking more continues, and yeah, I think that's pretty important and pretty good to see. Flush draws, weak ones, looks like it's going for a bet quite a lot. King, queen of spades, queen, jack of spades, so queen, x of spades, betting less often. I guess when we start betting queen 8 of spades here for this overbet size, this one that's used most frequently, we do start getting better queen x hands to fold, and obviously we block queen x of spades. It's, you know, because we have that. So that's potentially why this hand is actually this is 2 pair. That's probably more why it's going for the bet. Jack 8 of spades, 10 8 of spades. So look at the equities here, reasonably good. Queen 8's just loving it in this spot. It's always confusing when it tells you, these are the flush draws, and then you look at the board and it's like, hang on a minute, this is 2 pair, and that's why the equity is so much better with this one hand. Okay, cool. So we're betting 8x of spades. I guess again, blocking him from having 8x, 10 8, king 8, 9 8, stuff like that. Shout out to Joe Sats for the follow on Twitch. And in combo draws, doing a lot of betting. Okay, cool. So my note here, I mean, I would say that, again, I need to look at this board in more detail. But, you know, choose bluffs. I want to choose bluffs better, but I don't think that's a particularly good note. But what I'm going to do here, I mean, really what I'm doing is making some notes, and then to, you know, force myself to revisit these spots, you know, later on, and really see, okay, what sort of hands are we going for here to bluff with? Because sixes clearly isn't a bet. But 2s, 3s, and 4s are. We start bluffing with those hands. We can get 5x and queen x hands to fold, but we also get to bluff some of the draws as well down here. And the king highs will just be like betting more frequently with the spade. The king 10 looks like it loves it. But yeah, I mean, still going for a bet more frequently with king 10 off with a spade. And some more unnatural bluffs, I would say, in this region here. And I guess, again, this is just trying to work out why we're checking a little bit more frequently here. Maybe we just block too many folds, so the folding portion, so we don't want to do that, but I'm not 100% sure on that. How do you say, betting low pairs to target the 9s through 6s? Yep, exactly. So if we did go for this overbet, you can see folds basically all pairs apart from the set. 5's got check raised on the flop, I think. So, and we also get queen x to fold as well. I mean, I don't think population is going to hold on here with a queen versus an overbet. So I think this is realistic. These queen x hands in here. Obviously, queen x of spades is not so good. And okay, Cool. So yeah, so I did make the note of choose bluffs better, but I think, like I said, I don't think that's particularly great. But I would say 6s 26% equity, 10-9 29%. Let's have a look at the strategies again. Yeah, so like 10-9 of hearts. Let's have a look. 10-9 of hearts, 12%. So it's clearly just recognizing. I'm trying to just work out how the solver's working here, but it's betting with weaker hands in this spot, like the 10-9 of hearts, more than 6s. 6s has some showdown value, and whereas 10-9 of hearts has very little, but can certainly get better hands to fold. Plus, you have a gut shot. You can actually just get there, just drill it on the river. Question from Twitch: was there much raising from villain on the flop with his Queen X of spades? Let's have a look. Absolutely none by the looks of things. A little bit of raising with Queen Jack off with the Queen of spades, but yeah, there's a tiny amount, but not a huge amount. Okay, so yeah, good questions. So yeah, I think the key thing here is working on flop strategy versus the small blind. So a lot of what I do when I mark hands and then go through them is to say, actually, clearly I've got some work to do on this area because I'm not 100% sure. And anytime you find yourself in game and you're like, I'm not really sure what the strategy is supposed to look like, I'm not 100% confident on what it's supposed to look like, I think it's a great spot to study. So I would definitely now be saying to myself, right, I'm going to probably, I could potentially run some Sims low jack versus small blind for a series of flops, and then run them in something like simple GTO trainer. And but also you could probably run a report and you could see what the strategy looks like, and run through it and make sure we're not like butchering hands as much as we did here. Although having said that, the logic was still pretty reasonable, I think, but we just choose different types of hands to get those other hands to fold. So yeah, I think it's really important to sort of have an awareness of like where your leaks are, and then make a plan to fix them, right? So once you get to a point when you feel reasonably good at the game, then you start to sort of question a lot, and you question whether or not you're doing things right, and you question what you're supposed to do in lots of different situations. Well, the way to get better then is to drill those situations, but also make sure that you are spots that come up time and time again. There's no point drilling river spots, I don't think, over and over again. There's just so many different things that can happen in river spots, whereas the flop's going to come down. I talked about this before, but if you do this and you just say, right, low jack versus small blind, and you give yourself a series of flops, ace queen 5 or 9-8-6 or 6-6-4, lots of different boards, and you talk about what your strategy is going to look like on those different boards. And I think then that's a much better way, I think, to approach study. And then when it comes to comes in game, you're like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what to do on this board. So now I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, yeah, I think there's a lot more big betting versus a small blind, but it's, a huge amount of checking as well. So we can't just go too crazy here. Okay. Question from Lopsided on Twitch: what's bet 451 v bet 112? Not sure. Let's have a look. Okay, so these bet sizes are 25% pot and 3E, which looks to me to be 3/4 pot. So you can set Pio up to do geometric sizing to make it equal sizes of the pot on each street. So on the flop, I always tend to go, this stack depth certainly 25% and 3E. So it just happened to be 3/4 pot. So yeah, 112 is 25% pot, 451 is 3/4 pot. Although having said that, looking at those numbers, yeah, 451, let's just go back. Because you'd expect one to be 3 times the other, right? If it's 25 and 75. Oh no, it is. It's 152 and 451. So I'm reading this message. It said 451 and 112. So that's what confused me. But yeah, it's 152 and 451. Cool. Okay, let's go back to sevens. So my question in this hand is, is the flop a call? So we called, this guy raised from on the low jack. We defended on the button with sevens. Small bet on the flop. What do you guys think here? Are we always calling here? Is this a pure call? What's the worst pair you would call in this spot? Is it going to be sevens? Is it going to be sevens with a spade? Is it going to be nines? Is it going to be twos, you know, without a spade? You know, what kind of thing? So yeah, what do you guys think here? Versus a small bet, so we're in position. We don't want to be folding too much in this spot. We're facing a very small bet. So yeah, what do you guys think with pocket sevens here? Call or fold? Okay, so we've got some feedback coming through. Fold, call with the seven of spades, 7-7 with a spade. Okay, so I think this is quite sort of a common idea here. And part of the reason why I wanted to run it, because I think it's a pretty good learning point. But also, I just wanted to be 100% sure that I wasn't overdoing it here, because I think versus a small bet like this, you can't fold sevens. I think you'd be over folding. So whilst like having sevens with a spade, you'd feel more comfortable continuing, I think you're supposed to call here. So I think yeah, it'll be good to see if that's the case. I also think we're supposed to call like sevens through fours and then I guess start folding twos, but I'm not sure about twos with a spade. So again, like you can just hear me just sort of articulating like what we're doing with different parts of our range. So when it comes to studying, I think it's really important that you're not just going like sevens, yeah, fold, call, whatever. You're just trying to think about all the other parts of your range. So we're not folding a jack, we're not folding an eight, we're not folding a three. We're not folding a draw. We're probably not folding like big cards with a backdoor flush draws, you know, that kind of thing. So just sort of have an awareness of that. And obviously he bets pretty small. If he bets big, I think we then start folding this hand. That's my guess anyway. Hattie says his range is a lot stronger than ours. Okay, well we'll test that theory in a minute. Luck be a lady saying third pair and a backdoor straight call. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll have a look at that in a minute. The hand gets boring now, so he bets and I fold. So there's not a lot to talk about on the turn. I think the turn is very, very clear fold. But flop, I think it's good to have a look at and just, you know, force you guys to, and me, to think about what our range looks like for continuing on the flop. Question on Twitch from Jack Rag. Yeah, maybe such a small bet it's a call, but what is our equity realization? Well, we can find out. This is the board. Okay, so the first thing, let's have a look at what we do versus a big bet. So all those guys in the chat that said call with the seven of spades, you can see that you are absolutely spot on against the big bet. So, I mean, even some of those seven of spades are not going to be loving life, as you can see here. But we're definitely folding our combo, our hand, which was sevens without a spade, right? But if we go versus the small bet, you can see sevens is a pure call. Let's look at the EV though. So we're not loving it. We're not going, okay, yeah, fist pump, let's high five the monitor or high five the dealer, high five the cat as it walks past. Sevens with a spade though, you know, as everyone I think was looking at in the chat, was just like, yeah, okay, we feel much better. But I still don't want to fold versus this small bet with sevens. I think, yeah, we want to be tough to play against. We want to be sticky. Our opponent's playing out of position. Nobody likes playing out of position. Let's make life really, really hard for him or her, and force them to, to find a double barrel on the turn. Question on Twitch from Costas Tech. For low stakes MTTs, how much do you charge? I can't find it on the page. So if you're interested in coaching, there is an option to apply for coaching on the website on MTTPOKERSCHOOL.com. So just apply on there and I'll get back to you very, very shortly. Okay, let's have a look at other hands that we continue then. So we continue sixes and fives as well. Pocket fours, we do start folding. Twos without a spade, we do fold. Okay, so that's what I was thinking. I thought we would continue with all fours, but looks like fours without a spade is pretty dusty. Yeah. So I think, yeah, sevens and sixes. I think we're okay to call. Like we just don't want to be over folding versus such a small bet. You know, I would say that, you know, quite a few tournament players, they just go for the small bet, right? And expect you to just, you know, give up. So you just don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that person who gives up too soon. We can give up on the turn. That's fine. Like, let's just check that actually. Four of hearts, we'll come back to the flop in a minute. He then bets big, which is not a sizing that he should be going, and we start folding sevens now. So yeah, looks good to me. Don't want to be calling there. So let's have a look at the other hands. Then we're supposed to continue on the flop. I said we don't fold an 8, we don't fold a jack, obviously. We don't fold a 3. We only have ace 3 suited and pocket 3s. We don't fold any draw. I'm fairly confident. Yeah, 0 folding from all the draws. So we've got flush draws and straight draws and stuff like that, and combo draws. And also said about ace high and king high with some backdoor draws. So let's have a look at king high. Okay, so king 10 of spades obviously is a flush draw. King 10 of diamonds is a backdoor flush draw. I would probably start letting go of king 10 of hearts, king 10 of clubs, honestly. King queen, the same thing, where it's king queen off with a spade, king 10 off with a spade. Yeah, so I think just continuing with backdoor flush draws. Obviously, we are overfolding a little bit because it says here king queen of hearts wants to continue half the time. But yeah, I think we want to be a little bit careful of that. Because the EV, as you can see, is so low. Shout out to IO Plat or Plate88 for the follow on Twitch. Yeah, so we're not folding with the backdoor flush draw, or backdoor flush draw. We do start seeing some folds then at ace 7 of diamonds and down. Although then ace 4 suddenly comes back in, as does ace 2. Question, sorry, the kid problems, missed last 2 minutes. Are we calling sevens? Yes, we are calling sevens, and we're calling all the way down to 4s, but it's starting to get a bit dicey with 4s without a spade against this small sizing. But against the big sizing, we would fold sevens, and even with a spade, it's not looking good against the big bet. But yeah, so 2s versus a small bet, continue with a spade, and 4s starting to look a bit dicey. We have ace 3, it's not going to fold. Ace 3's equity is always just going to be slightly more, because you think about it, you have 5 outs against if he's got a hand like king jack, whereas pocket 4s has 2 outs. I guess with spades it has, can go runner or something as well. Okay, so yeah, just sort of demonstrating how cool it is to use software to sort of think about what your range looks like for continuing. I think the easiest thing to do is to literally just go, okay, we had sevens. Yep, sevens is a fold. All right, let's move on to the next hand. If you do that, you're missing out on such a fantastic opportunity to learn lots more about what you're supposed to do in this spot. Then you're kind of, there's really, essentially, if you're using a solver to tell you whether you played it right or wrong, you're probably not doing it right. So I think you want to just go into as much, you can go into as much detail as possible, and you want to, you don't want to go down a rabbit hole. So I think I talked about this earlier about having questions to make sure you've got questions for the solver. So what you actually want to work out here, and my question was around, small pairs, like how many of them do we continue? Do we need a spade? That kind of thing. And then thinking about other hands that we continue, so like ace 9 of diamonds, with the backdoor flush draw. But really, I think it's quite logical. Versus such a small bet, we do start, we do just continue with basically all draws, all pairs, unless they're really weak, and overcards with a backdoor flush draw kind of thing. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, so I think that was it. Let's have to see against the big bet again. So now I just think we start folding a lot more of the backdoor flush draw type hands. Yeah, you can see it here. King 10 of diamonds, ace 10 of diamonds, not loving it now. King queen of diamonds, let's look at the EV on that. Yeah, it's getting pretty bad. Ace queen off with a spade looks okay though. Ace 10 off with a spade. Yeah, looking a bit bad at this point. So I think, just be flexible with that. Be sensitive to the bet size, and lots of things to think about. Now, one of the points on Twitch earlier was out of positions range is a lot stronger than ours. So let's have a look at that. So out of positions 51.7% against in positions 48.3. 2 pair plus out of position 3.8% versus 4.1. So out of positions equity is slightly higher. But then in position, we have slightly more really strong hands, 2 pair plus. So I think that is that's yeah, maybe like a misconception on this board that out of positions range is stronger than ours, because I think the equities run quite close together, and as I said, the very strongest hands, we have a slight advantage there as well. Okay, so finally, the last hand, pocket queens, we open for a 2.5x, as I mentioned earlier. It's the size I want to go at this stack depth. We do have a 50 big blind stack here, 67 big blind stack here, but I think, you know, we're playing 80 bigs against a big blind, small blind, cutoff, and low jack as well. Okay, 6-3 deuce. So I'll talk you through the hand, and then I'll tell you the questions that I've got for the solver. So I went small bet on this monotone board. The first question I have for the solver is, are there any big bets on this board at this stack depth? That's the first thing. On the turn, do we ever check back? I actually went for the check here because I felt like we just blocked a lot of his continues, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It's probably a mix. It's always a mix. So I decided to check back, and the 9 of diamonds, he then leads for just over half pot, and I just decided to call. So the other question is, can we raise for value on the river? So I guess asking you guys, flop, do you think we ever get to bet big? So again, like, forget about a hand. Think about your range. Do you think there are any hands in our range here that get to bet big on this board? That's the first question. I'll let you guys try and answer that. Okay, Madman on Twitch saying, I bought and downloaded Poker Tracker 4 and it's only working on one table at a time. Do you know how to make it on more than one table? I don't. It just works for me. So I would suggest that you contact Poker Tracker. They've got a great support team and they'll get back to you. You know, you can just open a support ticket and they'll be able to help you out. Okay, Hattie says, low connected better for the big blind. Sheldon's saying, I think a big bet is good. He's often going to defend with a diamond. Like Be a Lady saying, I think not. Jack Rag, he has more flushes than us, so probably no. Hattie, bet small or check. Okay. Norway King, we often have a ace high diamond. Oh, sorry, a high diamond, I guess is what you're saying. Evolution Retro Gaming, 7s, 7, 7, 8, 8. Okay, so that's some hands that potentially could benefit from betting big. Crazy Talk, sets and overpairs without the diamond. Yeah. Okay. And then sort of similar thing, but with a diamond. Okay, this is going to be good to see. So I guess let's go straight into it. Is this the right board? Okay, so first thing is no big betting, all small betting, even with some of those hands we just talked about. And yeah, let's just have a look at equities. In positions equity 56%. Decent number of strong hands in this spot. Let's just see 2 pair plus. In position 12%, out of position 12.1. It's pretty close. I guess in this situation the solver is using the small size because out of position either has pretty strong hand or just has complete biscuits. So we get a ton of folds here, right? So even versus a small bet, out of position's folding, quite a lot of the time. Not a huge amount though. Actually, it's not like 45%, right? So I think, yeah, I think this is still quite a lot of folds, like from all of these suited hands that are not diamonds, and then offsuit hands without a diamond. All of these. So I think it's reasonable, but yeah, I think it's good to see that it's just just some small betting going on here. Jack Rag, he has more straights too. Yep, only I know 5-4 and 5-4 suited. Maybe just does some 3 betting at this stack depth. Maybe population doesn't. I mean, with all of these ranges, it's important to recognize that population might play differently. But I don't think they're going to play that much differently where the strategy is going to drastically change. But if you have evidence to convince me that that's not true, then yeah, for sure, let me know in as well. Daman Harris said there's always the medium bet too. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think in this situation, like finding a bet in between the two potentially. Norway King 69, thanks for the follow on Twitch. Yeah, potentially we could, but I think there's quite a lot of small betting on monotone boards against the big blind in general. So something to look out for when you're running your own sims. Okay. So our opponent calls, and then which queen was it? So the next question, I'll put our hand back in now. It was the Queen of Hearts. The next question was, do we actually do some checking back here? So there are some situations where you bet flop and then you just block so many of your opponent's continues when you have top set that you're actually supposed to do a decent amount of checking. So what I want to know in this spot is that true here? There's a lot of chips behind. We obviously have a very strong hand, a hand that we don't feel bad about bet calling. If we bet and they get raised, we have top set and a flush draw. So we're perfectly happy with that. I would also say, like, when I say things like that, it's just to make it a little bit more human. Whereas obviously the solver's not going, well, we're not worried about getting a check raise, because it doesn't have emotions, doesn't worry about anything. It just literally is looking at the EV of different lines. So I just thought I'd mention that. Let's have a look here. Luck be a lady. Turn here, although we have top set and want to get some more on the river. His good diamond hands will come along, so maybe on a flush flop we can bet top set again. Hattie, he may still call with a diamond, 4x, 5x, 2 pairs, pair plus draw. Yeah, I'm not sure how many 4x and 5x are calling flop to begin with. And then if we bet, say we bet small on this turn card, are they going to continue again? Like, they would need to have, like, I'm trying to think, like king 5 off with a diamond, right? Those hands would continue. So yeah, I guess that's what you're talking about. So let's see. Nope. This is the board. So Queen of Hearts then. He doesn't do any leading. Check. And now, so we do some checking, but betting seems fine as well. I think the biggest takeaway here is the fact that we primarily use the small bet in position. Again, a lot of his range is somewhat weak. So I guess when we're bluffing, he's not going to be able to continue. We can get him to fold a lot even with a small bet. And then when we're value betting, we don't want to go huge and force him to fold a lot of hands, right? Sheldon saying, if he has a better flush draw, he probably check calls flops. So tough to get value on the turn, given our hand is probably better. Evolution, I think he still had enough hands to call again. Pair plus draw, and they'll also expect you to bluff over cards, so may call again. Betting more with the Queen of Diamonds, says Hattie. Absolutely, yeah. So in terms, let's have a look at equity. So obviously both very, very strong hands. Queen of Diamonds has like almost 9% more equity in this spot. I just remember there was a question earlier on asking about equity realization with pocket sevens. Can someone remind me before we wrap it up to go through that? Because there is a way in Pio to find that out, but I just realized I didn't do that. Sheldon saying, I meant check raise flop. He probably would have check raised the flop if he had a better flush draw. Let's just have a quick look at the strategy. So not a huge amount of raising for the out of position player. Some raising going on with a flush, and then some ace of diamonds, king of diamonds type hands. So that there is some going on for sure. Ian123, thanks for the follow. So yeah, I think that's reasonable, but not like this number. Like, compare this to, say, a paired board where we might see anywhere between 25 and 40% check raise. This is very, very low for check raising against such a small bet. Okay, so yeah, I don't think, again, is there anything pure betting on this turn? I don't think there is. So there is some big betting, but mainly go for this small bet. So what I was saying earlier on, just to reiterate that, is that when we bet small, we can get, when we're bluffing, we can get some better hands to fold. When we're value betting, we can get worse hands to call. So we don't need to go, bet really, really big in this spot. There was a question I questioned earlier on about whether 5x or 4x would continue past the flop without a diamond, and you can see that it does a little bit, but the EV of these hands is going to be super, super low. So you can see here it's like one chip into 845, a pot of 845. So yeah, I'm not sure, but certainly there's not actually any king 5 off, queen 5 off type hands. Remember, I made it 2.5x pre, so he's not going to, well, I mean, he might do. He might defend some of these hands. In fact, the hand that he ends up having is not on here. So that's always fun. But yeah, I don't think that, yeah, spoiler alert, he doesn't have one of these. But you can see that he's not supposed to continue past the flop with, pre-flop with too many of these. Like, I think he folds a lot of these, this region here, which might have included pair plus draw. Although having said that, there are some 6-5, 5-4s are straight, obviously. Is there anything else down here? 6x with a diamond, you know. So there is some, yeah, some stuff to continue for sure. Raging Rick 2021, thanks for follow. Yeah, so I actually went for the check back. Let's have a look at the difference in EVs. I mean, it's exactly the same between checking and small bet, as is very often going to be the case with mixes. So yeah, we went for the check. Thanks for the follow, TJ. How's your mama? On the river, complete the flush. So the final question then, 9 of diamonds. We face this bet. Can we raise this hand for value? If we're raising this hand for value, what are we expecting to call? Like, what kind of hands are we trying to get us to call? And then I guess, like, compare what do you think the solver is going to do compared to what do you think you should do in practice? So just give me your thoughts on that, guys, in the chat. Okay, so we've got, I think so, targeting middle flushes, only the king of diamonds and the ace of diamonds beats you. Yeah, and that's quite a large part of his range, right? Jack 10, 8, 7 still may call against a 2x raise. So we would min raise in position trying to get called by a weaker diamond. And then what? And then fold if he jams? I guess we'd have to, right? Or if he 3-bets the river. Sheldon, very hard to get paid if you raise. Yeah, I don't think that hands like Jack X of diamonds, 10x of diamonds, 8x of diamonds, those kind of hands are actually going to call if we raise. Although min raising potentially could. But then do we ever open ourselves up to leveling ourselves that we, you know, then end up calling versus a 3-bet? I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Luck be a lady. Jack of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, and flop flushes who are annoyed at missing turn value might call. Okay. Evolution says, don't think I raised this. Not sure we get called by worse unless I have a very specific read that he's batshit crazy. Yeah. Fold to jam. Wouldn't raise too much here. Small raise. He would call Jack 10 of diamonds. Jack or 10 of diamonds. And yeah, I think min raise gets most value. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? So it's, you know, I'm always open to ideas. Like, I don't think that, you know, my first thought when you said like min raise in position, I was like, I'm just not sure that's a thing. But exploitatively, it's most likely to get called by weaker diamonds, right? They're just like, okay, well, it's only costing us 5.5 bigs into a pot of 20 bigs, so let's you know, I'll just call just in case he doesn't have a, you know, a better flush. But then as well, like, okay, with those hands, but we also then lose that money to ace of diamonds and the king of diamonds, right? So it's not just about, it's not like we, you know, we have the ace of diamonds and we know there are plenty of hands that we could get called by. We have the queen of diamonds. So yeah, I think I do think it's close. And it's probably going to be a mix. But I think the solver probably mixes. But I think in practice we can't do that. So check. What was the river? 9 of diamonds. He goes for this bet, and we. Okay, so what did we have? Yeah, we did have the queen of diamonds, obviously, and looks like it's going for a raise in position here. But the key thing I want to look at here is what kind of hands call us. Shout out to Jafra 17. So like, He's supposed to call us with some 10x of diamonds hands, jacks with a diamond, I guess. Yeah, he's starting to fold the 10 of diamonds here. Jack 10 off with the 10 of diamonds. So it's like he's calling with some 10 of diamonds, but mainly jack of diamonds plus. If he's starting to fold like 7x of diamonds and stuff like that, I guess a lot of this is already, maybe it's choosing a different size, or maybe it gets to raise on the flop or something like that. But yeah, I'm just not convinced that population are going to pay you here unless you did make some sort of exploitative sizing where you just went for a very small raise in position. If we did get jammed on, we do end up folding, and I mean, I would fold all the time. I think here you can see that we're just not making much money at all. And I think, again, in practice, like, how many players you're going to play against where you raise in position and then get jammed on are going to do that with anything other than the ace of diamonds. Like, even with the king of diamonds, they're going to be like, he's probably got the ace of diamonds, I'll just go for a call. So yeah, I think it's an interesting spot. Hattie saying missing too much value calling here in this spot. I'm not 100% sure, because like it has him folding like 10x of diamonds, right? And then we lose to like ace x and king x of diamonds. So let's just see how much value we are losing if we don't. Oops, wrong one. So we're missing out on 16.3 chips if he calls all the hands that we want him to call with, right? So that's 1%. Is that right? Of the pot. Like, it's not a huge amount, right? So I don't think that. Yeah, I'm just not convinced that raising is right here, because I don't think he's going to call as wide as the solver. I mean, to begin with, he's chosen a line that's not very consistent with the solver. If he goes for a small bet, then we're always raising, and then we get called by more hands. I guess he's getting a. There's more chance that we're going for a bluff raise, but yeah, I think this is like. I think this is a classic hand of where it's important not to just like go with the solver and just always do one thing or the other, but actually think about, is this guy going to call us with these hands? And I think if you're fairly confident that when you go for a raise here, he's going to call with jack x of diamonds, 10x of diamonds, 8x of diamonds, then for sure go for the raise. If you think that he never calls with a worse flush, then you can't raise, right? That makes sense, right? Let's have a look at some of the comments. And Jafra came in mid-action, unsure of the stakes here, but I do think we can find some profitable raises here. For sure, we can find some profitable raises when we have stronger hands. The stronger our flush, the more likely. I mean, obviously the nut flush, but like even having the king of diamonds means that he can have like queen x and jack x of diamonds, right? Hattie saying always folding to a jam, it's always the nuts. Knit life. Maybe evolution with a retort, punting life. So solver looks like it likes to raise. Yeah, so again, like just sort of again reiterating what I was saying about the difference between always relying on the solver. Look at what the solver's doing and then think, where does this guy, what's he probably going to do wrong? Is he going to call too frequently with a diamond, or is he just going to start folding those only ever calling with better? Shout out to Gutshot 2599 for the follow. Hattie, I'd rather min raise to get the calls. Looks like your raise size is more. Evolution solver will raise because it thinks it's playing against another solver. It assumes we'll call with a lot worse. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. So see what the solver's doing. See if you believe that population or this player is going to be doing what the solver's doing, and then take the appropriate action. Okay, so I said I'd look at that pocket sevens hand again because I wanted to look at equity realization. So it was a jack 8 something. Jack 8 3. Let's have a look at equity realization. Whoops. With pocket sevens. Yeah, so it's not great. EV over EQ is much better with spades, as you can see, but it's still positive. It's not like A7 of hearts here, for example. But as we get lower, I think this is going to drop off. Sixes seems to be standing out here as being slightly better. Fives then just sort of falls off a cliff. 4s then and 2s without the spade is just, not loving life at all, which is kind of what we said, right? We'd start folding 4s and 2s without the spade. Cool. Hattie, Jack X 10x of diamonds probably call to a min raise if the sim set up different. Yeah, so you could maybe choose a slightly different size, go for the min raise to get called by more diamonds, stubborn diamonds. You will find there are a number of players who just see that they have 5 diamonds. Their best hand is 5 diamonds. They have a flush and they just can't fold any of it. So yeah, I think that's reasonable. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to wrap things up there, guys. I think we did well to get through those 4 hands today. I made some notes here, so talking about no overbetting on connected boards, 3-bet pot. It was big blind versus cutoff. I need to look at that some more for sure. Low jack versus small blind, big bet and check, some small betting. And the biggest takeaway for me was just that I need to go and drill some, in position versus small blind spots and just get better at playing those. And what else? Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from the solver stuff at the end was just make sure that you're not blindly blindly following the solver suggestion. Like, just see what it's doing. Like, okay, in a solver versus solver world, as one of you just said, this is why it's doing this, right? So then we just go, okay, do we think he's either going to call too many of those hands or fold them? And if he's going to fold anything worse, then you can't raise. But then I guess you could then work in some sort of exploitative sizing that would get him to then suddenly call with more of those hands. So yeah, I like the creative thinking, guys. I think it's been a great session. If you haven't done so already, hit that follow button. I think we just reached 2,000 followers on Twitch, which is awesome. Oh wow, we definitely I thought we were at like 1,998, but we're suddenly at 2,126. So shout out to you guys for following. But if you haven't done so already, hit that follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, then subscribe. If you're watching on Twitch and haven't seen the YouTube channel yet, head over to youtube.com/MTTPOKERSCHOOL for free strategy videos and highlights of Sunday stream. And okay, that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap things up there. I'll see you next time live here on Twitch.